So everybody, we want to welcome Mr. Chris Hauty back to the show. Chris, welcome back to the Crew Reviews,
What's
sir.
happening, brother?
It is great to be back, guys. Thanks so much.
Because there are still people, unbelievably, there are still people out there that may not have read Deep State. I'm not going to talk too much about where we left Haley Chill. But can you tell us a little bit about where we find Haley Chill in Savage Road?
We find her as a relatively low-level staffer in the White House. I think I can safely say that in Deep State, Haley Chill is an intern in the West Wing, and in this next book, she has graduated to a paid position, working as the chief of staff of the president's chief of staff. So she has a job of some responsibilities in addition to all the other responsibilities that we can't really speak about.
Okay. Well, we had our viewers won't know this, but we had a little technical difficulties to start the show, and technology has become so integral to our daily lives, and we've become more reliant on it every single day. On the other hand, there are a lot of vulnerabilities in our systems, from the simplest to the most complex, some of which you use for dramatic purposes. I won't say anything more than that, Savage Road. But when you were plotting this novel, when you were doing the research for this novel, what scared you the most, or what's still living in your consciousness from all the thoughts you put into this book?
Well, I guess I can best answer that question by saying that after I'd finished the research for the book, which the research entailed reading, I would say about 5 or 6 books on cyber warfare. The first thing I did was I went out and bought a Honda generator.
No kidding.
Garage, and I know there are varying degrees of preppers in the world, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And on that scale of 10, you're living below ground and you have a 5 years supply of toilet paper, and a 1 is you're doing absolutely nothing to prepare. I'm probably about a 1.5 until I read those books. And then I realized that our systems are really vulnerable.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's really something that I don't think has really been addressed. It's probably been addressed in fiction more than in real concrete policy making, politicians talking about it.
Yeah.
Or, what would be best is things, fixes being made to change how robust our defenses are. The United States, up until recently, I think you could arguably make the point, we still are very strong on the offense. Our capabilities to wage cyber warfare we have few rivals in our offensive capabilities. Our defensive capabilities are subpar, and those hardened systems, computer systems and networks are mostly located in the government, military sectors. So the thing that I picked up on for the book was, hey, what about us? What about civilians and civilian targets and soft targets? And that's what I picked up from my research was we're awfully vulnerable to cyber attack. And, the things that have happened in this country and elsewhere in the world are fairly local and small scale. I mean, even if you take out, the the famous case of the Iranian, not reactors, the
Stuxnet.
Yeah, the Stuxnet centrifuges used to, I think, I'm no physicist. It's made for creating weapons-grade plutonium. Those were taken out, but that's such a small, specific surgical strike compared to what could really be done if a bad actor decided to really do some damage. And I guess one of the most terrifying things that I read about in those books was that, you know, our electrical grid is reliant, and I should be more up to date on what these things are actually called, but they're these massive generators. And I think there's not a lot of them. They're so massive, and they're integral to the system. And if you took them all out, it would essentially plunge the entire country into a blackout. And I haven't read Kyle's book yet. I don't know because I didn't want to read it. Once I realized that his book was also involving cyber terrorism or warfare, I didn't read it. But if you took those things out, it's not like you can just drop in another centrifuge.
Right, right.
Or you can go get a Honda generator at Home Depot. These things are massive. They're as big as buildings. And so the country could potentially be without power for months. It would roll us back 300 years in our way of life. So
yeah, you're in Kyle's book.
Yeah,
a lot of sleep. Now that your book's out, you should read his. It's very different from yours. I mean, you guys are tilling way different soil. There's
it's on my to-read. I definitely want to get to it because I'm curious to see how much better he did it than me. But
honestly, you guys are tilling different soil. It's completely different stories, and they both are amazing. But they both cost me a lot of sleep. So you're both bastards. So
yeah, you better keep that receipt for that Honda. You might want to upgrade to a whole home unit there after you read his book.
I realize that. I realize that. I would like to get pretty much off the grid if I could. You know, this is the only home as a local here in the home of the homeless in Venice, California. So my next home purchase, I would like to definitely, and motivated largely from my research. I'd love to be able to, if the plug is pulled by someone else, I'd like to be able to, you know, still get my frozen waffles out of the
He's got a lot of them. He's got the Costco sized box. All right. Well, let's go back to Savage Road here a little bit. So early on in the book, Haley Chill, she returns back to her home stomping grounds in Charleston, West Virginia, which, fun fact, I actually lived there as a child for a while. She attends a funeral of a childhood friend. And you showed us a particular emotion when she goes back to what is, you would think, is a pretty, you know, intense situation. And then right afterwards, she goes to see her sister and has a whole 180-degree kind of emotional scene, like back to back. And so I guess my question, and it stuck with me, I guess the question was her reaction based on her work in DC, or is that kind of who Haley is now? And I won't give away the hows and whys. You'll have to read the book, but it was pretty profound for me.
The reaction with her sister?
Yeah, well, I mean, the reaction is compared to each other because within one page you've got boom and you've got boom, and
I mean, I was really happy with the way that came out because it was such a. I like that contrast, and you know, it was Haley can come off somewhat hardcore and intense. I think. At times. And so I wanted to show another side of her where those kind of familial bonds and just real, you know, family love can be expressed, and just to round out her character. It was I can't even remember the genesis of it. And, you know, part of that is you know, the architecture, the necessary plumbing is pretty clear, you know, in terms of why, you know, why is that scene needed? You know, why does she have this visit back home? There was really, you know, just one item of business that needed to be attended to. And I think you probably know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
What she returns to Washington with.
Right. It comes right after.
Is a key. And that's like what pushes the, you know, propels the story a little bit further.
Right.
But then that's the fun stuff of writing, because it's like, okay, well, I'm just not going to like have her, you know, do it in some uninteresting way that doesn't lend any kind of significance to her character or doesn't deliver any emotion. And so I think originally I just thought about the scene. She would acquire this piece of business that I needed for her to acquire for my narrative to move forward. And I was going to just accomplish that at the funeral.
Right, which was totally different than the next scene, that's what was so crazy.
Right. So, but then I thought about like, well, you know, this is the luxury that you have as a novelist that you don't really have as a screenwriter. It's I could, you know, if this was a screenplay, I would only have 3 pages at the most. That's 3 minutes of screen time for her to get that piece of business and then continue forward with the bigger arc of the story. But because this is a book and I could turn it all into a whole chapter and explore other aspects of her character, reveal other aspects of her character, and expand the universe, because, you know, I introduce just in small ways new characters, new family members that we haven't seen before on stage with her, and maybe they'll come back in this book, maybe they'll come back in the next book. And so that's just writing, you know, it's just the part of what's fun. It's like, you know, she's back home. What would I do if I'm back home? I'm gonna like, if I have family members, I'm gonna go look them up, even though I haven't seen them in 2 years or a year and a half. And what's gonna happen? And what's going on with the sister's life? And how is their marriage? And it's just so much fun, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Like, but you gotta know how much detail and stuff to pack into that, you know, space.
Right.
I'll like just kind of go off on a tangent. So it's all that kind of, you know, just going by instinct about what.
Sure.
Well, and I think that you did a really effective, you're doing a very effective job, and we'll get to Haley a little bit more as far as the way you're peeling back layers of the onion, so to speak. But you write 90,000 words in a book, and, you know, some readers are going to connect to different lines. One of my favorite lines in the book comes early. You're describing the political landscape of Washington, D.C., and there's a line where you say, information is a Saturday night special of these D.C. gang wars. And I actually did the impossible, and I actually set the book down. In the Unputdownable book, I set it down because I had to kind of ruminate on that for a bit, because it just struck me. And I felt like you were speaking not just to DC, but to the greater global society, you know, whether it's information between nations, information between a government and its people, or information from the press. It seems like information is being weaponized like no other time in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. Was that on your mind when you typed that, or was that just kind of a line? Am I extrapolating way too much from that line?
No. You extrapolate as much as you want. That's a good thing. That's what I think an author wants their readers to do. No, I was, you know, this book, you know, the first book and this book and the third book work somewhat as a trilogy. Mm-hmm. And that theme is inherent in all 3 books. And in particular in the second book, if the first book and the third book are focusing more a bit on sort of what is truth and mm-hmm. how is truth fungible, and how is it obtained, if it is. The second book, Savage Road, is more about the weaponization of information. And and that works with, you know, the guts of the book, the narrative, because it's about cyber warfare, and cyber warfare oftentimes is about, you know, oftentimes, I mean, you can blow up generators and cause various infrastructure, you know, to fail, but you can also, you know, steal information and use it against your enemies. I mean, it happens every day. I mean,
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
and that just is such a. I already knew where, you know, I outlined quite a bit with these books, and so I knew where I was going exactly in our climax, and that involves a lot about the weaponization of information. So, you know, that was in the air, so to speak, when I was writing it.
Yeah, well, pretty obvious. So people liked the twist in Deep State, which kind of took the thriller community by storm. And I'll say Savage Road is going to give you plenty more of that, folks. So stay tuned. And so with plenty more of that storyline for Haley Chill, pretty obvious when you get to the end of the book. How far out are you considering her character and her progression? Are you going one book at a time, or do you have in mind a set number of pieces or set number of novels that you're trying to take her to? Which one of those do you typically play with the most?
Do you mean how long do I see Haley as a series?
No, so much as that are you writing with the thought of something 2 to 3 books down the road, or are you completing that story and not considering the next set, or is that all in play?
Well, like I just said, I mean, these first 3 books are very, very much connected. I think in ways that you guys certainly can see at this point. I won't really talk about it here. But so I knew when before I sat down and started outlining Savage Road, I had a conversation with Emily Bessler, the world's best editor, and she said, "Well, what are you thinking about for the next book?" And I said, "Well, I'm thinking cyber warfare, and some of the action taking place still in the White House, but expanding it out to the NSA and Cyber Command." And she said, "Great, go write it." So that was as much as I knew in terms of where I was taking Haley. In other words, not much. I knew I wanted to play more with this one theme that is part of this 3-book trilogy,
Right.
Which is a much more personal theme than the president and what the president is or isn't, and what cyber warfare can do to all of us and all those things. I think I'm no expert. Everything I say should be taken with a gigantic grain of salt because I'm relatively new in town, but I think my franchise character is the heart and soul of the series, and her emotional story and her growth as a human being. I was either smart enough or just lucky enough to decide to start with a relatively young protagonist who's easily going to outlive me. I would love to just keep on exploring her story, and I don't know exactly where it's going to go. I know what I want to do with the 4th book. I know just a general sense of the arena that I want it to be in. For the foreseeable future, I'm going to continue with a notion that I think sets my books apart from a lot of the rest of the genre. Again, I can't say this for a fact. I'm no expert. You guys know a hell of a lot more about the genre than I do. But, you know, my interest is in her adventures and Haley's efforts is to explore and rectify the problems we bring upon ourselves as Americans. The threats to America in my books for the foreseeable future are those that are come from within. So it's unlikely that you're gonna, you know, see Islamic terrorists, you know, driving down Broadway with a van filled with, you know, nukes.
Right.
There's just so much screwed up stuff going on in the United States today that I feel like I have you know, plenty of opportunity to explore those issues that we have. So I think that can keep me busy for a while in terms of sort of like, okay, what are the arenas where I'm going to place my character? You know, what is she doing? Probably unlikely, but don't hold me to it. I won't be sending her to far off exotic lands. I think that, you know, there are just so many, there's so much drama and conflict in this country that I don't need to send her overseas to help, you know, make things better. And, you know, keep on growing her out as a character. You know, I explore a little bit more in Savage Road, you know, her life and, you know, outside of her mission. And in book 3, I expand those margins much wider. And so, you know, it'd be great to be able to pull that off, to like have both kind of exciting, you know, thriller yarns and espionage yarns and political thriller elements at the same time as have some really heavy duty emotional weight brought to bear with the books.
Yeah.
Well, Mike just mentioned in that question the infamous twist at the end of Deep State, and both novels are filled with reversals, surprise reveals, people and things that are not what they seem. And I find myself, as I'm reading, questioning everybody and everything, taking the advice to trust no one. Do you have all that mapped out ahead of time, or do some of those twists emerge as you write?
Both. You know, it's totally, like I said earlier, I outline like crazy. It happens. It happened less with Deep State. Deep State, I had pretty much, you know, in terms of twists, I had those pretty much all figured out ahead of time. With Savage Road, I mean, with the there are some twists. Again, I hesitate to even say where they all are, or because people, you know, are kind of anticipating. And I think that if you read the book trying to like just, you know, defeat me as a twistmeister, then you're not really, I think you're getting less out of the book. I think you should just kind of let it, you know, take it like a good shot of whiskey. Just, I'm not
Don't
trying.
mind if I do.
Fight back, man. But, you know, this happened big time in both books 2, and I know I'm not supposed to talk about book 3 that much because we haven't even launched book 2, but I literally am just finishing the kind of submittable draft. And both books, I was essentially almost done with the book, with the writing through the whole, you know, my rough draft. And way before I'm actually going to show it to anybody. And usually in the mornings for exercise, it doesn't sound like much, but it gets me out of the house. I just go for a walk and listen to music in my earbuds. And both times, right near the end, I just was like, I don't know, I wasn't even thinking about the book. It just kind of popped. And the whole, it would seem like I had it's like you're going to make a cake and you have all the ingredients out and you're like, well, I got all these great ingredients. I guess I'll just put them away. And then you go, wait a minute, holy shit, I can make this great cake. And that's how, I came up with, I was just like, it's all there. I just had to go back and change a few things and lay a little bit of pipe to kind of foreshadow it. And so sometimes as I try to map it all out, because it makes I'm a firm believer in the value of outline, and I think it makes for a tighter book. I don't want to incite a huge discussion with all the
pantsers,
outliners out there, but that's just the way I've always written. But even still, I can still really surprise myself with why didn't I think of this before? But thankfully I did. Yeah. And with the book 3, it was literally just a week or so ago where I realized there was such a fantastic opportunity to really gut punch the reader, and so both ways, both.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, now that you're on about ready to drop book 2, we're going to ask you a question that we've asked a lot of our other guests, and they all tend to have a similar answer, but you've got a unique history as a longtime screenwriter. So I thought I would throw out there and kind of see what you had to say. Obviously, you've got your entire life to write that first book. And when you're on a 2-book or more contract, you're on a deadline after that first one. So writing Savage Road, you were on a shorter timeline than the first. And so what was your experience with that? Did you feel a little bit of that tension about, I got to get this done? Or was this just kind of business as usual for you, given your long-term career?
Well, the first book was, I think we had this discussion a year ago. It was very much written on a lark. I had nothing to lose. Just wanted to try it, see how I'd like it. And the fit was great. And so in actuality, I guess you can say that the second book was somewhat harder to write. Not really. I mean, I never have writer's block, but I just was a bit more careful, and that slowed the process down a little bit. It seemed a little harder. I don't have any problem finishing the books in time. I think I got Savage Road into Emily, before she was ready for it, honestly. This third book felt a little less, I felt like, okay, everyone at Simon & Schuster loved Savage Road. I was able to do it twice. I think I never want to feel like I've got this. I don't think an artist or writer should feel like, oh, if I'm just gonna this isn't hard work at all. An enormous amount of effort goes into writing a book, and my non-existent hat is off to all authors. In comparison to writing a screenplay, it's a lot more work. I mean, I'm not saying it's harder or easier, because that would be a false statement. It's really, really hard to write a really good screenplay, and the same goes with a really good book. But just the sheer volume of words. I mean, I spent weeks and weeks with Savage Road and book 3, just making the prose better. just because, and that's a lot of words. It's 90,000 words. I think a screenplay is probably 15,000 or something.
Jeez.
So just in sheer, kind of like, okay, you've got the thing down. You've made a lot of good choices with your characters and your story, but in both they're not genres, in both disciplines, every word has to be really good. And I find that to be a real challenge with books because that's a lot of words. And so it's a lot of like kind of agonizing over it. So that's the long-winded answer to your question. I don't, it's just, it's not a question of harder. It's just, I really want to do a good job. And so, I'm putting in a lot of time.
Sure.
Trying to do a good job.
Yeah.
Well, as I've told you almost every time I've spoken with you, and probably have told you every time I've talked to you, I think Haley Chill is already one of the great characters in popular fiction. In this novel, April Wu takes on a more significant role, and I think pumping her stature is one of the strengths of this book, frankly. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I read female characters written by a man, and I can tell it's written by a man. But both of these characters read like real women. My wife feels that way. My daughter feels that way. My sister feels that way. And every other woman I've spoken with or given this book to feels the same way. What do you think you do to get those voices so right?
I do not know. I don't know. I didn't have daughters. I have two sons, and I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question, or a really, really agonizing question. I'll just say that, I've been doing it, and this sounds a little pat, but I can't think of any other explanation except I've been doing it. I've been writing female characters, strong female characters, for a long time. I told you guys last year that there came a point in my screenwriting career where, I've had a long screenwriting career, and it's not the biggest one in town, but it's in the higher percentiles in terms of length, and
Mm-hmm.
And so I think part of that longevity was due to my versatility and reinventing myself, and so many years ago, I saw a real a big there's just a hole there in the marketplace for roles for actresses, especially in roles that typically went to men. I mean, they were almost non-existent, and so I started writing them and writing projects with strong female protagonists, and so I just developed a voice and a feel for them, and what was interesting to me, and how those characters, the female characters, could be more interesting than just different situations and issues than male characters, and quite frankly, just in the novelty of it. It's just a novelty of seeing women in situations that you're typically not seeing them. I only, I don't pour through every single review on, Goodreads or Amazon, but I read a few, and I've only seen one or two, honestly, readers snipe about like, oh, I can always tell when a man, is writing female characters. So I'm really, really gratified and pleased that, Sean, what you've said about your wife and your daughters, that, that women read the books and appreciate what I'm doing. I think that's the job of any artist or writer, is to create worlds and characters that aren't necessarily their own.
Right.
So if you can pull that off, I think
Point.
that's one of the basic jobs of a writer is
Yeah, true.
is to do that. So I don't know why exactly, except I think I've been simply just doing it for a while.
Good enough. Experience counts, people.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about something real quick and real fun. So everybody who kind of pines for that first book deal probably has something on their mind that they're going to buy for themselves, maybe a little self Santa gifting. And so I need to ask you, so after Deep State, did Chris Hauty go out and buy him something that was a bit of a reward for all that hard work getting that first deal?
Well, it's funny you should ask.
Oh, here we go.
Boys, let's go outside and step into my Maserati.
Oh, nice.
No.
I thought maybe a 42 Crocker V-twin big tank would be right up your alley.
I thought about getting another motorcycle, but I didn't do that. Can I talk about this? I think I can talk about this. It comes up in book 3, quite a bit. And I'm not going to say any more than that, but
oh, you did last time. Come on, man.
it explains one of the reasons why I was willing to do this. But how far should I go into this? What I'll tell you, I'll just tell you what I did. I am I'm not a tremendous gun guy. I think I talked about this last time I was on your show.
Yeah.
Where in Hollywood, when you're a screenwriter, you don't really need to know that stuff. If the movie gets made or the TV show gets made, they hire somebody. Well, I've gotten some real light flashes here. I'm going to move a little bit. I had to, I think you need, unlike the movie business, an author in this genre needs to know more about what he's talking about. And so Jack Carr was kind enough to set me up with the folks up at Thunder Ranch.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
I remember hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I put a few pictures up on Instagram, and
Yeah.
I had such a great time. And Clint and Heidi Smith, who are just tremendous people, were just so gracious in opening up their home and really kind of essentially shutting down their business for a weekend while I was up there. And so it was just me, Clint, and Heidi, and they just took me through the whole kind of like, I shot everything. And it was quite a thrill using a bolt rifle to hit a metal target about this big from 700 yards.
Nice shot.
So anyway, and they introduced me to a gun maker called Nighthawk.
Oh, yeah.
Custom 1911 handguns.
Oof, I know how much those go for.
So those go for a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had me fire one up there, and I expressed some interest in I had been thinking about getting a gun just to, start getting, no pun intended, more hands-on experience with weapons. Not that, I don't ever expect Haley Chill is going to, this series is going to be heavily gun dependent, but they certainly come into play.
Yeah, sure.
So I thought this was something to be more familiar with.
All right. I'm jealous.
And so, at the time when I went up there, I was thinking about getting a Glock or a SIG. And then after I left Thunder Ranch, I knew what I wanted to get, which was a custom 1911 from Nighthawk. And so I haven't gotten the gun yet. I ordered it months ago.
Oh, yeah. It takes a while.
Their whole thing is one gun, one gunsmith. And so probably come January or February, I'll finally get dividends of book 1, Deep State, by finally putting my hands on the custom 1911.
The shooting purists are going to be super happy to hear that answer. So.
Yeah.
I will toast that, but I will also toast the fact that you once again have survived the main portion of the show
2 times.
2 times. Yeah. So you get a patch if you're a 2-time survivor. I think we have a few of them. I'll mail that to you at some point.
At some point.
But I'm going to start since I'm hosting, and I know you are enjoying being a novelist, but we're going to just pretend that you are going to write a screenplay. And I want to ask you, what movie would you like to either rewrite or write a sequel to, I rather should.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
Okay.
Gladiator.
Oh, sequel?
Yeah.
Sequel or rewrite?
Yes. No?
Well, I would, you know me, we just had this discussion minutes ago. I would like to write Gladiatrix.
Gladiatrix. There you go.
The female gladiator show movie. So
cool.
I guess that would be, it could be a prequel, it could be a sequel. I could make, or a remake. I guess I would probably, do the remake. I don't want to be beholden to,
right.
With sequels, it's so tricky because you're continuing those characters that aren't yours. So let's go for a remake with a female gladiator.
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, now this gets even worse. Not only can you not write novels again, you can never write screenplays again. You can never write again. What does Chris Hauty do for a living?
Oh, God, I'd like to be like one of those guys at a fire tower,
Oh, like a Firewatch guy?
Yeah, just stack the books, hot plate, scrambled eggs.
All right.
Chris Hauty, male prostitute.
I probably could have written 50 guesses and that wouldn't have been as yes. All right. My last question is going to take a little more thought. It's a little more cerebral. What animal would be most terrifying if it were the size of a cow?
You mean an animal that is not that size?
Correct.
Huh. I would say, what's the word you use? Terrifying?
Yeah, most terrifying if it were cow size.
I would say a COVID virus.
Oh, yeah. Damn it.
Virus, whatever. We'll be
That's
easy
true.
to research it, though.
Although that'd be pretty tough to inhale.
I'm gonna go with Sean. Sean, your famous trio, and I might be geographically citing myself. I'm not sure which, but I know you guys know about the Pep Boys. Manny,
Pep Boys?
Jack. So
Yeah.
who's Manny? And if you need some visual reference here, hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. You can edit this part. But okay, here we go. You got that?
Well, they're almost a perfect likeness.
They're kind of in the order.
Mike's wearing shades. I'm in the middle, and Chris is the one on the other side. That might be our next crew reviews
I was
graphic.
going to say, why did we go with the Three Amigos? We should have just went with the Pep Boys.
Right.
Shit's classic.
He's already trademarked it, I think.
Okay.
All right, Chris, what is the age of Aquarius?
January?
I don't know. I was thinking of a gift, but I don't know how
He
old
was
they
hoping
are.
for an actual.
20 years?
I don't know.
Ooh,
Yeah.
This is the age of Aquarius. I have no idea what Aquarius is.
I don't know. I don't know how many candles.
A lot of astrological aficionados, I think.
All right.
Yeah. Pass.
Pass. All right, then you have to answer this one. So just so I know what to wear, what color are the producers' chairs for Sean, Chris, and myself when we hang out with you on the set for Deep State adaptation?
What color are they?
Yeah, I want to match my clothes to the chair.
Oh, yeah. We're going to make those. I think we're going to be getting some down and dirty locations. So we're going like a dark gray.
Okay. All right. Match our skin
The
tone.
name will be way in the back. It'll be just in the back side.
As long as we're there. As long as we're in the same continent. All right. So number 3, and I need to ask you, is now a good time to announce your and I's future movie production collaboration? Because I failed to mention that to the other 2 guys.
Saw this coming.
Yes.
Okay.
Chris doesn't. If there's one thing you need to know is Chris doesn't announce anything because everything. He's almost as secret as the CIA.
It's old habits.
And Mike.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Your famous trio.
Yep.
Now I've done athletes and I've done the world of retail.
Okay.
I'm going to go with pop music.
Okay. Here we go.
Oh,
And you're among the crew review guys.
Mhm.
Who's Peter, who's Paul, and who is Mary?
I'm gonna be Peter. Sean is Paul. Chris is Mary.
Hi, boys.
And not just because we've been camping before, because that's probably the way it should be.
There you go. All right. Well, you handle yourselves well. I hope I didn't cause any dissension in the ranks there.
oh no, not at all.
Listen, I wish more of our guests would turn the tables on us and ask us questions because it's it's hilarious.
I will be calling Chris Kobe from now on. Though.
Every time you do a Kobe.
Your code names when you do your next special.
That's right.
This is a theme of threes, similarly to your question to me. So my question to you is, okay, I'm focusing today on famous trios, and my first famous trio is Shaq, Kobe, and Robert Horry. Tell me, among the 3 crew review guys, who's who? Who's your Shaq? Who's your Kobe? Who's your Horry?
I'm Kobe.
Oh, Jesus.
Mike is not Czech.
No.
And there's my answer. But I'm a Knicks fan, so
Well,
I'd
come
be
on. I'm in LA. I'll go get my Dodger hat to prove it. Did you close that out? Did you tell? You're Kobe. Who's Shaq?
Sean Cameron.
Well, I will tell you, sir, that there's no sophomore slump. I was wondering until I got this. I was like, is he going to be able to live up to what I think was, again, one of the best debuts I've ever read? And you delivered, my friend. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm going to toast to Haley Chill, and I hope she's around for a very, very long time because, like I said, she's two books in. She's already one of my favorite literary characters in the genre, in any genre.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Want to thank Chris Hauty for joining the crew for his second visit for Savage Road, the amazing follow-up to last year's excellent debut, Deep State. There's tons of secrets and twists and turns in both of these books. Get out there and buy it. But more importantly, join us every Monday on the Crew Reviews for another great author interview.
Do it.
Michael?
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Here we go. This is the outro for Chris Hauty and Savage Road. And it's just the duo amigos. Christopher, where are you? And here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Want to thank Chris Hauty for coming on for a second time and talking about his wonderful Savage Road, which is a great follow-up to last year's amazing debut, one of last year's best debuts or best debuts ever, Deep State. Tune in every Monday for more secret crew stuff, like Savage Road secrets. Sorry, I'm going to start over. I'm so close. Two take Jake.
You couldn't have been any closer to finishing than that.
I know.
And here we go. Pass number 2. And